By now, I hope you've had a chance to listen to part 1 of my conversation with Ms. Chapman. Let's go ahead and jump into part 2.
To answer the question, what do you absolutely love about your job?
I love the trust that our families put in me as a counselor. You know, the other day we have a student, the let go of it, you know, the biggest focus of the group in the beginning is to understand why our body works the way it does and what's happening when we're feeling nervous and we're feeling angry. And so I had one of the boys in my group that he's actually the kid that I had in mind when I named the group and the activity, because I knew he loved Legos, but he was a very angry kid and he had good reason to be angry. And he's also very brilliant. And so I knew if I could find a way to give him the skills, it would be better. So I see him in a hall, he's taking a cool off lap. And, you know, I say, "Hey buddy, what's going on?" He said, this makes me love my job. He says, "I chose to use the amygdala instead of my prefrontal cortex. And so right now I'm just getting it out so that I can think here."
You're lying.
Oh no, my kids will tell you how.
How old is he?
He is in 3rd grade, so he is 8 years old.
And he learned that in your group?
Yes, all my 2nd, 3rd.
That is huge. Because men don't even, I shouldn't say men, adults don't even know how to calm themselves down like that. That's you know what you're really doing is ministry.
Yeah, in my heart, that's what it is.
If you are from a Christian faith, or if you have faith, a lot of us look at ministry as being a place that comes inside of a church from the pulpit. What we're seeing now is we need more people in the workplace, in schools, to do ministry there, because they need to see that. And when I hear you talk about the intentionality to get at the core and the heart of your parents and your student, that's ministry. That goes beyond a job.
Absolutely. I do feel like that. You know, I have so many things that I have going on, you know, in this role, because, you know, I've found some pretty solid success in the social media world.
Yes, we're going to get to that, because you're a good example of someone that doesn't have to do this or that. You can do this and that. And I want to show people that are watching this that have all these gifts and you're trying to figure out where do I use them. Well, life will make room for your gifts.
Exactly right. And, you know, I've found so much success in the world of social media that, you know, if I wanted to do that full time, I absolutely could. And when I think, because there are people out there who want to be admired or have influence, and so it's important to them. They feel like, oh, why don't you make? To me, that's never been a goal. It's still not. It's never going to be my goal, if I'm being honest. With that, I love it. It is fun. I will say that. But I get it on camera all day, every day. It's not happening.
Yeah.
We're honest. We get on our own nerves quite often. And if I'm in where that's all I can do, it puts me in position to pretend or fake or force.
Yeah.
Probably my worst nightmare, or not a very fearful person, but if I feared anything, it would be to not be genuine or authentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like me a lot, not in an arrogant way, but I fought real hard to be me. And then I have to like it. And so work my full-time job as a counselor, and I come here with an attitude of excellence every day.
Yeah.
I come believing that these parents are sending me their best work. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to match that energy with my best work.
Yeah.
It is a ministry for me. It is. You know, these kids probably know I love the Lord if I've never used his name, because of how I treat them and how I represent the good God I serve, you know, and through the kindness. It's through the love, the non-judgmental fact that come to me as you are. We're going to help get you to where you want to be. Yeah. And the capturing kids' heart. You know, I very much have it. So I do feel like for me it is. And it sometimes can sound cliche. You know, I've heard people in interviews say it's my ministry, and it's like, you just want a job though. But no, it is what I know the Lord needs me to do right now. And about it.
Yeah, and I think that's why you're blessed in so many different arenas. And I often wondered, because I know that social media coins are very lucrative. And so when you have a platform, multiple platforms, and you're as gifted and talented in multiple platforms, it does come with a mighty dollar. So to have those resources and still come back, and give your best, not just your best, but excellence, that says a lot about your intentionality in your career field. That's why I say I think it's a ministry, because you in a good way, you're extra.
No.
And we need, as the education field right now is very off sync. I think a lot of people that have come into education are feeling they have to choose between their own mental health and a field that they chose to go in, knowing that this is not a career field that's going to make me rich, but it is a career field that I can make a difference. And fulfillment is more than having a mighty dollar. They're now having to look, I still want to do this, but my mental health comes at a cost. And so we need people to be able to stay in there until we figure out like the balance, until the administrators and the lawmakers figure out how do we save this profession and get people to want to continue to go in there and stay in there. We need y'all to hold it down.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, you doing it with excellence. Now I know that being a school counselor and having a ministry is amazing, but even in ministry and even in schools that we love, there are some challenges. So what are some challenges that come, with your job?
I think for me, the biggest challenge is wanting more for someone than they want for themselves. Or I'm very optimistic. And so sometimes I can get ahead of the person that I'm working with. Because you can do better, you can be better. And sometimes they're just not in that mental space to accept that or to get there. Yeah. So for me, that is the biggest challenge. Also, when, if you would have asked me this a year ago, it would be very different, because I was a 504 coordinator at that time, and I was a testing coordinator at that time. And so those challenges are not part of my life anymore, thank goodness. I think just, again, if I'm being honest, the school counselor job can be a very lazy job. It can be, if I wanted to, I could sit in my office all day and shop on Amazon. And because it's a private space, because I don't discuss what I'm doing, because I'm not going to share what kids are sharing with me due to confidentiality, no one knows. You can just assume that, one is constantly working with kids. Pop in here, pop in there, whatever. You can
look busy, walk fast down the hallway.
Walk fast, look busy. You can do those things.
Yeah.
But I can't do those things. But it's easy to do that. And when I had to do the coordinating and the testing and those things, there were days that was so mentally draining for me. I just didn't want to get up and go see anybody. Like, it's just,
I did that.
It's like that was the biggest challenge. But as far as kids and families, I mean, you're going to have some good days. You're going to have some bad days. It's a matter of,
pick your heart.
Choosing your heart. That's a good way to say that. Like, difficult. I'm trying to do the preventative care to get less kids in this office.
Yeah, absolutely. And that starts with, seeing them and connecting with them, like actually seeing them, not just, hey, how you doing? But like seeing them. Oh, your head is down today.
Yes. Like every year is to know 100% of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade names, first and last.
Yeah.
And I try to get in 2nd grade to get a head start to know their full name by next year, but I want them to know, I know you, I see you.
That was the biggest change for me coming from high school to middle school, because in the high school, you're in the hallway, standing at your door, but I wasn't in the classroom at that point. I was doing I was doing student services. And so standing at my classroom door, I didn't have to do because I didn't have a classroom, I had an office. But when I went to middle school, you know, you have to be in the hallways. And so you start, you know, kids start seeing you, you stick up your hand, they're going to high five you. And if you forget to do that one day, they're going to call you out, or, hey, I like your shirt. The next day, if you don't say, you don't like my shirt today?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't fit, my bad. And so they hold you accountable and they force you
Yes.
to see them.
Yep.
They force working in middle school forced me to expand, because high school kids are kind of too cool sometimes. And so, so they put on, sometimes, not all, this persona that they're fine. So you really have to dig and build relationships in order for them to trust you to really, you know, say what's going on. But in middle school, if you talk to a kid 3 times, they're going to be in your office talking about, can I come talk to you? And they will tell it all, because they're looking to be seen. They're looking for that connection. I was not ready for that. They want the hugs.
Yeah.
They want it all. And it forced me to kind of be, okay, we hugging today? Okay. Oh, you want me to come eat lunch with you? Oh, okay. Well, I normally eat in my office, but okay, I'll come eat lunch with you. Okay, yay. And that just wasn't part of my persona. But you can't work in middle school and not be that person, because they need it.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I will tell you this. I left education. My last job in education as an educator, not a mental health professional, was as a testing coordinator, because I didn't get a chance to be around kids. The only time I got a chance to be around kids when we were getting ready and we were packing up stuff and getting ready for PSAT and stuff like that. What are 1 or 2 misconceptions about a school counselor?
That we know everything on spot. When someone has an emergency, or, you know, a kid is crying, it's just like this expectation for us to know instantly what's wrong and we can fix it.
Right.
Other one is that, at least in my experience, a lot of teachers expect a consequence to be handed down if the principal's busy and the assistant principal is busy. A lot of times teachers come in and they want a consequence because they're mad, this kid has offended them. But my role is to be curious, not furious. I'm not going to jump on your emotional situation and hammer in on this kid that you're angry with. You know, I'm going to chase the why. I need to figure out why, and then help this child think through what they've done so that they don't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
But one of the misconceptions is that we are administrators in the sense that we can hand down the punishment when they're ready for it.
Right.
And then also on the other end, when something's wrong, we can fix it. One more misconception that I would love for people to fix is you need our permission to make CPS reports or our confirmation. Or you suspect abuse or a child makes a cry out, it's our job to go in and ask more questions to find out, you know, if you heard what you heard or if you should make, you know, the report. And that's not the case. I feel like those are the 3 battles I fight more than any other when it comes to misconceptions on what I do.
Yeah. And coming from, that makes a lot of sense. It's funny you should say that, because from an educator, I go to school to make sure that my students are academically sound first. Right. But as a mental health professional, my kids' emotional needs come first, because I know if they're not emotionally sound, their brain is not going to be able to process any type of learning. Yeah. So it's hard for educators to understand that we have different priorities when it comes to handling the needs of students. It's a different order of operation.
Yes, where our priorities are completely different. And I love the way that you explain that. And I tell kids all the time, you know, especially, you know, the word bullying comes up often, and they're like, well, I told my teacher, she just said to leave it alone. And I explain to kids all the time how, you know, when it comes to your teacher's role, they're there to teach you. So they're going to say, leave each other alone. My job is to make sure you're feeling good, you're okay, you're feeling safe when you walk back in that road. And that's priority. So that's probably why I'm probably the one you want to let know you're feeling this way. Your feelings are my priority. Whereas, and I get it. Teachers have 20 something of them at a time, and you know, someone's complaining, go sit down. Like, I've done that before. I get it. But that you're right. My priority is your emotional well-being first.
Yeah. And I think that as the mental health word, it's like a buzzword now. I think that the more professional development educators get regarding how mental health is so important to just the culture of your classroom. Because before capturing kids' hearts is about connecting before you can educate. And so mental health is about making sure that they are mentally prepared for whatever, because if not, that stress. When I learned about ACEs, and we're not going to go into ACEs because that'll take us a different route,
right.
But adverse childhood experiences, coming from those type of environments, you can't learn. You cannot learn.
Well, it goes back to what I teach my kiddos. When you're constantly in a fight, flight, freeze mode, your amygdala is constantly, releasing this adrenaline in your body. You need your prefrontal cortex. This is what you need to use. And they don't work at the same exact time. You're in one or the other. And so one of my favorite parts of my job as well is making sure we're a trauma-informed school. So our campus is aware that trauma has a big impact on student learning. And so again, chase the why. Let's be curious before we're furious. I
like that.
Is a communication.
Yeah.
Bit of it. And so we just got to figure out what it is. Something's happening between the moment they're sitting fine and then the moment they're acting up. And you didn't see it because it's all in here.
Right.
And so this is what we're chasing to figure out so that they can get through and they can learn in your classroom.
Yeah. And so you don't have to send them out, so you can do the nurturing to repair their relationship instead of always sending them out, because every time you send a kid out, every time, what you're telling them is, I don't want you here.
That's exactly what it is.
And even though you say, oh, welcome back, they're going to remember, get out.
Yeah.
And so, but let's not go down that rabbit hole, because I told you I only take an hour from you. So let me refocus. What is the difference between a school counselor and a school social worker? Because I actually thought you were a school social worker, and you corrected me. You were like, well, I'm actually, and there is a difference.
There is. As CIS coordinator, communities in school,
have that.
The one on our campus is a social worker.
Yes.
And so she has so many more resources and capabilities that I don't have, including helping families get to community resources. I can't do that. I refer out.
Right.
Whereas I feel like the social workers are more in the trenches, walking you step by step, making sure you have your resources, helping fill out paperwork, and I can help to an extent, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to feel confident to do that. I would refer it over to someone else to make sure that it's done right. Also, social workers, at least the one on our campus, doesn't do counseling. We do work together to give the family the help that they need, but that one-on-one intervention in the counseling, they don't necessarily do.
Okay. That's interesting, because the campus that I was on, we did a lot of groups and we did a lot of one-on-one.
But would you call them support groups, or would you call them counseling groups?
Support. You're right. It was more support. Because the goal is to make sure you are giving them support and putting them back in the classroom, because they can't be out of the classroom for so long. And we were billing Medicaid.
Yeah. So I think that's the types of groups we do.
Yes.
And very closely to, her name is Mrs. Macias. I work so closely with her that's why we both do it.
Yeah.
So there to make sure the counseling part is done. She's there to make sure the resource part is done. And then we have these breakout groups where we do the creative part together. So it is the most beautiful little situation we have.
That's what wraparound services should look like.
Mm-hmm.
So wraparound services that when I was on the high school campus, it was you had your social worker, and then you had CIS, you had counselors, you had dropout prevention, you had your graduation coach, you had your parent specialist, and then you had, what else? You had, I forgot what else, but these were all services that could wrap around a family's needs, whatever they needed. And so it was a way to kind of support the family so they didn't always have to go off campus.
Yes, I feel like we see a bit of that. And we try to bring as many great community resources in that we can. But the big thing is whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whatever we got to get a hold of, let's do it. So we can take care of these kids.
Yes. You've been in the field for 12 years. So I'm sure that the services you provided today, the services that you provide today, are they any different from 5 years ago? Are there different needs that you're seeing from 5 years ago?
Ooh, so
lots of gems dropped in part 2 of my conversation with Miss Chapman. One of my takeaways from today's conversation: be curious before we're furious. I love that. All right, tomorrow we're going to wrap up our conversation, and she's going to share with us, in her opinion, have the needs of students changed since we got back from the pandemic? This is Health and Wellness with Coach A.T. Moore. Thanks for watching.